Good morning, everybody. As we continue on with our Maamer LoSihiyeh Mishakela full devotion, we are currently in Ois Ches. Yes, we're currently in the middle of Ois Ches, the 8th chapter, which in this book is page 56. And we are about to actually use this book because, on this book we are on page 151. Okay, so I want to give an introduction to what we're about to say, because it'll make a lot more sense. So, okay, here's what we're gonna do. So there are three. Okay, so we re-brought it back into the pasuk, and now we have to understand what does this mean in regards to our pasuk, right? So what is it? How can we understand this a bit further? And there we go. Right now I can actually see people. Okay, so what does this mean in regards to our pasuk? So we went back to the pasuk and we started we analyzed it, or we're in the midst of analyzing it, which was, and you shall serve the Lord your God. There will be no woman who loses her young or who is barren, right? So in the original translation, in this version's translation, we call it miscarriage. But I want to make and that's why I like certain parts about the translation in here, because as much as the technical Hebrew word means miscarriage, for the context of this Maamer, what the Rebbe explained was that it doesn't mean necessarily that a woman loses, chas v'shalom, loses her child while the child is in the womb, but the terminology for miscarriage in this aspect of the Maamer is referring to chas v'shalom, a child that doesn't outlive its parents, right? So this is like a tough topic, but like the natural hopes, I think, for a parent is that the child that you're raising, the child that someone is raising, should outlive them, and they should continue on the legacy of, the family. They should continue on the legacy of this particular person. So for a parent to lose a child in their lifetime, it's a very, very, very hard thing that we I mean, for a child to lose a parent, it's also a very hard thing, but in a certain way, it's a little bit more expected. I mean, again, this is a very tough topic, and it's not a comfortable topic to discuss, but I just want to give context of what the Maamer is trying to say here. So as much as this Maamer translates the word into, Mishakela technically means, the word Mishakela technically means miscarriage. In this sense, it means a woman who loses her young, right? So that a child that doesn't outlive its parents. And then Va'akara is a barren woman, right? So we're trying to understand those things. So we went into it, and we have to understand, what do these things mean, not just in the physical, which obviously we're going to use the physical to be able to understand what it means actually in the spiritual, because even if, let's say, the part of this Maamer, or one of the beauties of this Maamer, is that even if at some point someone is not married, or at some point someone isn't pregnant, or at some point someone isn't, this could be learned by this was technically said to yeshiva students. So they themselves are not really dealing with these physical things, which means we have to understand them in the spiritual sense. There's a spiritual aspect to it. So we went to understand that there are two levels of barrenness. And again, we're trying to understand it from the physical perspective, but in reality, we're just going to learn a lesson, and it's not necessarily about the physical aspect, but it's to teach us a lesson in the spiritual aspect, right? So there are two levels of barrenness, and there's one level of losing someone's young, so losing the young, okay? So again, technically it's Mishakela, which is miscarriage, but it means after the child is born. chas v'shalom, to lose a child in their, to lose a child in your lifetime, not yours, in somebody's lifetime, chas v'shalom. Okay, so there are two types of barrenness. The first type of barrenness is somebody who chas v'shalom doesn't have a womb, which actually we know from Mefarshim that this is, Sarah and Rivka were not born with a womb, and that's why the miracle of them having children was such a miracle. So there is that level of that somebody doesn't physically have what they need. What does that mean in spiritual terms? It means that it's possible that we are so self-centered or so self-involved, even for good things, even if, let's say, we're working on something in ourselves that's like a wonderful and beautiful thing, but we fail to realize that it's not necessarily about what we want to work on, but it's what's our mission in this world. So it's possible that we may be working on, and to give like a lofty example, so to speak, but we may be working on davening by Avodah for hours, right? So let's say we wake up and we spend the full day. It says that there's a chassid, and this might be his thing, but that chassid would wake up and learn Chassidus and go straight to Shacharis, and Shacharis would take such a long time because he would take time to really think about his words and what it meant, and really his bainin on all these things, that it would go straight into Mincha, and then Mincha would take such a long time that it would go straight into Maamer, and let's say that's what we're doing. And that could be very beautiful and it could be very holy, but it's possible that the Eibusher needs you to, do other things. The Eibusher needs you to go do your shlichus in your job. The Eibusher needs you to take care of your children. The Eibusher needs you to, call a friend and check up on them, and all of these mitzvahs that need to get done during the day. It's possible that they need you to get them done, that you are needed for those things. So as much as it could be coming from a holy desire, we have to empty our cup, so to speak, as it says in the Maamer, that if our cup is so full with our own, interests, that we're not able to realize and not able to appreciate that maybe the Hashem needs us to do something else. Maybe we are needed for something else in this world. And again, it doesn't mean don't daven for this is just an example. But it means to be open, to be a keli, be a receptacle to be able to receive, right? So what's a womb? A womb is something that's able to receive the seed that it is given, and it's able to feed it and sustain it and make it grow and spend that time, and then children come out. So what are children in our terms? Children are our actual love and appreciation for Hashem, right? So there are many places where we talk about love for Hashem. I mean, it's nowadays Chitas for Tanya. It's all about loving Hashem. It's all about having a love and an appreciation for the Eibusher. So it not always do we feel it in a revealed, like, wow, the same way we love chocolate cake, or as Rabbi Gordon usually jokes about in his Chumash shirim, 7-layer cake, right? So it may not feel the same type of love, but in reality, that's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to accomplish a real love for Hashem. And if we empty our cups, instead of being self-centered about what we think we need to be doing, but really say, Eibusher, what do I need to be doing right now? What do you need me for? Do you need me to raise my children? I'll raise my children in the best way possible. Do you need me to reach out to a friend and do my shlichus by connecting to somebody else? I'll do that. If you need me to be a good working human being and be a mensch and live by example and show even people that may not be Jewish or may not be from in my work what a yid is about, how much of a mensch we are, and how much we work hard, and we do the right thing. If that's your shlichus at that point, that's what Hashem wants from you, then yes, do it to its fullest extent. Anyway, so that's the first type of barrenness. If chas v'shalom, a person is so full, so their cup is so full with their own desires, whether it's physical, somebody who's spending all day, every day, let's say, listening to the news, then they're filling up their cup with other things, and so therefore they're not in tune, they're not as sensitive to the Eibusher's call of you. What do you need to be doing? Or somebody who spends all day on social media. Again, we're filling up our cup. So now, what's the second type of barrenness? And that's what we're going to discuss. And I'm going to explain it outside first, because this every time I've learned this Maamer, and it's not a lie this time around either. My husband and I have had to learn this section like 2 or 3 times now. So it can be a little bit hard to understand. So this is my personal understanding, and this Maamer is bilti muga, which means the Rebbe never checked over it. So it's possible that certain words were missed. I mean, also the Rebbe cried a lot, so this particular section is a bit hard for me to understand. I'll tell you what I got from it, and Mitzvah Hashem will speak to the Rebbe very soon, and he'll give us whatever was missing or may have been missing. Okay, so the second aspect of somebody who's barren, chas v'shalom, especially, I mean, in physical terms, but also we learn a lesson in spiritual terms, is somebody who technically has the womb, right? So they themselves are open, and they're open to the Eibishter, they're open to the Rebbe Shlichus, whatever Hashem wants from me, that's what I should be doing. If right now I'm meant to be davening shachis, that's what I'm going to daven. If right now I'm meant to take care of my kids, that's what I'm going to be doing, right? So they're open. Their vessel is not full. They have a womb. Now, what's the seed that needs to come in to impregnate the egg within the womb, right? What is the part that needs to come in? Is to learn Torah, right? So even if we're saying, okay, Hashem, you tell me whatever I need to do, but we're not turning to the sources that the Eibishter has given us to be able to give us clarity. If we're not learning Torah, then we're not going to get clarity. The Eibishter literally put it in tons of different svarim, whether it's halacha svarim, what you need to be doing when, or whether it's Chassidus svarim, what you need to be doing when, or whether it's, a Rebbe video, whatever it is, you need to be learning Torah in order to be able to get that clarity from Hashem. What am I supposed to be doing now, right? Okay, so learning Torah is one of the parts of, quote unquote, the seed, and doing mitzvahs is the other aspect of the seed. Even if you're open, but you know what your call is, you know that the Eibishter needs you to do X, Y, Z, but you're not doing it. You're not actually taking care of it. You're not doing the mitzvah of Avas Yisrael. You're not doing the mitzvah of Bikkur Chaylim. You're not doing the mitzvah of Kivud Avayim. Whatever it is, that mitzvah you need to be doing now. If you're not doing it, then you're not putting the seed in the womb in order to create that child. So we need to realize that we need both aspects. We need to open ourselves up, and we also need to do Torah and do mitzvahs in order to bring about this concept. And I'm sure you guys have had a point in your lives where you are open. You're saying, okay, this is the avodah of this time period, and so therefore I need to go do it. And you actually did that avodah. And there's a certain like, for some people, for me, for example, when I hear Duchanin, when I hear Birkas Ka'anim on a Yom Tiv, something inside of me shakes. Something inside of me. I mean, even this past on Pesach, the fact that we weren't able to do it, and the Friedman. Personally, I grew up the Chabad house that my parents went to when I was young. It's one of the Friedman's sons, Manas Friedman's sons. He's one of the shluchim, and all of his children have the most incredible voices. So I always grew up with a Friedman duchnin. So that tune in a Friedman voice, it hit my soul, and I couldn't. Just listening to the recording, I started crying. And there's a certain sense of doing the right thing and being open to be doing the right thing that can sometimes lead to an emotional outcome. For some people it's Yom Kippur. For some people it's that one Yom Kippur that I spent in Tzfas in seminary. For some people it's, walking and touching the walls of the Kaisel. When you're doing the right thing and you're putting in, you're open to listen to Hashem, you have that sensitivity to say, okay, I am here because this is a holy place, or I'm here because this is a holy time. And then there can be an emotional arousal, right? So that emotional arousal, not only did you do your part, but the Eibishter gave you that gift. And the fact that Hashem gave you that gift is a thing in of itself. Just like parents, where the father technically has the ability to provide the seed, and the mother technically has a womb and has the ability for the egg to receive that seed. But the Eibishter still is the one. That's why we say that there's three partners in creation. The Eibishter has to give the bracha for that child to be born. The Eibishter has to give, no matter how many treatments, whether it's hormonal or in vitro or whatever it is, the Eibishter is the one that's going to have to give that bracha, and he is an active partner. So too with our avodas Hashem. We need to open ourselves up, and we need to do our part. We need to do the Torah and learn Torah and do the actual mitzvah that was needed from us. And then we need to realize that emotional comes from Hashem. And sometimes it only comes once a year. And sometimes it only comes, that one Rosh Hashanah or that one Tishrei or that one whatever. And that boost of inspiration, that knowledge, that taste of, wow, this is amazing. And this is, Torah is true. And Hashem is true. And everything is good. And all that beautiful inspiration, as it says, as the Frierdiker Rebbe says, that Tishrei sometimes, which for a lot of people, Tishrei is that time of like arousal, that time of inspiration. It's like packing the bags, because not always you might feel it in the winter. In the winter, you might feel cold, you might feel distant, but you have to go back to that bag and unpack that inspiration, that feeling of, this was so good. It's just so true. Hashem's right. Hashem's good. And me doing the right thing is a good thing. And that emotional arousal that the Eibishter gave us during that time period can carry us on for as long as we foster that. Okay. So now we only have a few minutes. Now that you understand this, now the Maamer, I think, can make a lot more sense. So we are on the page of, sorry. Yeah, 151. Okay. We're on the last two lines of 151, again, on this version, which is to explain, and I'm only going to read the English. To explain. Conceiving a child in a physical sense comes about through the male sowing seed. This is a revelation of the power of Ein Sof, right? So what does this mean? That Hashem is the third partner in creation. As much as the male also has to sow seed, Hashem, we have to do the part. And the male, again, the seed of the male means Torah mitzvahs, okay? Conception is the closest example in physical terms to bring an entity into being from absolute nothing. Yesh ma'ayin. Conception, bringing a child is the closest we can understand of Hashem bringing something from nothing. Just as creation is only possible through the power of Hashem's essence, so too conception is a manifestation of his essential power, right? God's influence is reflected by the fact that there are times when there is no natural cause that a couple will not conceive a child, meaning the couple has every aspect. The wife has, everything works perfectly well with the wife, and everything works perfectly well with the husband, but Hashem has to give that last thing, okay? Now inside the Maamer. Similarly, in order to bring forth spiritual emotions, it is necessary to sow seed, as it were. As implied by the phrase, light is sown for the righteous, this refers to sowing the seed of Torah and his mitzvahs, right? So what seed? Doing Torah and mitzvahs, and we have to do that part. Like the growth produced by sowing a physical seed, the growth produced by these spiritual seeds comes about through a higher power. The Eibishter has to give that bracha in order for those seeds to actually grow. An essential movement, which in Hebrew is hazaza atzmis, which it's much clearer to just refer to that aspect, that transcends a person's reason and thought. Okay, so an essential movement. What's this higher power that Hashem gives in order for the seed to actually sprout, for a child to actually grow? It's a zaza atzmis. It's this essential movement. It's a shaking. It's a bracha. Okay, that comes, which transcends a person's reason and thought, that comes at the beginning of a new phase in a person's divine service, and that must be experienced at least once a year. Okay? So what did we just say? I know it's a little, the inside aspect is a little hard, but from my understanding, what we just said was that as much as we can have the perfect receptacle, and we can have sowing the seed, which is doing Torah mitzvahs, we have to receive that bracha from Hashem. We have to receive the azaza atzmis, that shaking, that inner, that like emotional thing that comes out, that the Eibishter's bracha, that you touch the core, the essence. When you walked in, you touch the stones of the kaisel, or you for some people, it's the first time they walked into 770. It was like, whoa, this is it. This is the place. Okay. So having that, Hashem has to give it to you. So the second level of barrenness, the first level of barrenness is that the vessel's too full. The person doesn't have a womb because the womb is we're too full with our own desires. But even if we're not full with your own desires, and we make sure to empty the kli, and we make sure to do the right thing and learn Torah and do mitzvahs, Hashem has to still give us that extra zaza atzmis, that shaking up, that arousal. And even if he just hazaza is movement, like a zuz. That was the question. What's a shirsh? So it's an essential movement. Hashem has to shake you up inside, and through that shaking up inside, then we're able to have that. And sometimes it happens once a year. It happens Rosh Hashanah. It happens Yom Kippur, whenever that is, and we have that growth potential inside of us for the whole year. Okay. Now the second, on a physical plane, after sowing the seed, there is also a pattern of days of pregnancy in which the fetus proceeds to grow until it emerges into the world at large. Similarly, in order for our spiritual emotions to blossom into conscious revelation in our hearts, there is also a process of gestation. Okay, so what does gestation mean? What does it mean? That sometimes, and this is one of the reasons why I'm such a big believer that we need to work hard on the 60 days program. Because as much as you might work step by step the whole Elul, and let's say you get a huge azaza atzmis, you get a huge arousal from above on Rosh Hashanah. I mean, you did your part, don't get me wrong, you definitely did your part, but Hashem still gives you that growth potential, that bracha of growth. You may not feel it right away. It may be something that you still have to, it's a pregnancy. You have to constantly be working on it. During the Aseret Shuvah, you're constantly working on it, and you're saying, wow, okay, this feels, I get it. How do I live with this? And now that we're not in Rosh Hashanah high holiday mode, how do I work on it? And then you feel you can grow in it again during Yom Kippur. You can grow in it again during Sukkot. You can grow in it again during during Simchas Torah, right? So that pregnancy stage is when you have that emotion, you have that, you're growing that emotion by learning and by constantly doing something and getting yourself inspired. Even now, from Pesach to Shavuos is a beautiful time also. Every single day we're working on something new. Every single day we're improving ourselves and we're learning more, we're connecting more, we're working on our Make It Count program. And by Shavuos, it's possible you might give birth right there. And by Shavuos, you'll feel this real bond, this real connection. You'll feel it. You'll feel an emotion of love. You'll feel an emotion of awe, of reverence, of appreciation for the Eibishter, right? You'll feel that type of thing. And again, this could be understood also in other matters. If there's something in your life you're trying to grow in, there's something in your life you're trying to improve, realize that you have to do your part. You have to be open to change. I once heard from somebody, very, very wise person, that if you ever hear something that you already know, instead of saying, I already know this, and shutting down, say, what can I learn from this? What else can I learn from this? Even if you're hearing the same Maamer a million times, or you're hearing the same advice from a parent a million times, the same story from a parent a million times, whatever it is, what else can I learn from this? Because sometimes we shut down and we miss the subtleties in the nuances of what else is being said. What else can I appreciate? What did I not think of before? So being an open keli helps you in every aspect of life, not just in your avodas Hashem. It helps you be a better worker, helps you be a better daughter, it helps you be a better wife, it helps you be a better, mother. My child says the same story a million times. What else can I learn from this? Maybe he's saying something a little different. Maybe I'm not listening to the nuance just because I feel like I've heard the same thing over and over again, right? So that's the level of gestation. Okay. One more paragraph and we're done. Scriptural charge, there will not be a woman who loses her young, brings out a further point. So now we're talking about miscarriage, quote unquote miscarriage, or a woman who loses her young, chas v'shalom. Even after our spiritual emotions of love and fear have been born, right? So we do feel that love and fear. We're feeling that inspiration. We're feeling that appreciation for Hashem. In other words, emerge into conscious expression in our hearts. We feel them. In other words, one has fulfilled the charge that there will not be a woman who is barren. We did our part. We made sure not to be barren. One must nurture them with the necessary care to enable them to thrive. Okay? Fulfilling the charge, there will not be a woman who loses her young. Only then is the divine service genuine. As implied by the phrase, the lips of truth will be established forever. In other words, one's divine service will not be an occasional initiative, but an ongoing, steady process of spiritual growth. Only then can it be considered true, for truth is unchanging. What's true is something that stays forever and ever, right? So what does it mean? We had that inspiration Rosh Hashanah. We grew it. We fostered it Yom Kippur. We fostered it on Sukkot. We feel this like high of joy and simcha and all these beautiful things during Sukkot and Simchas Torah. Now what do we do cheshvan? We can't let it go. We have to foster it. We have to keep it. As much as Hashem is not giving us the Tishrei high, we have to still do our part. So too with every single day of the year. We have to constantly, it's a little ember that we lit up. We have to keep it going. We have to warm up that fire and not get turned away and get stuck in our own desires and our own thing in the next iPhone and the next, the craziest news online. And we have to constantly foster that love and emotion. And therefore, we're not losing that young. What's the young? The young is those emotions that we gave birth to. And we hopefully, our job is to maintain them. And our job is to keep it going. Okay. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope everybody appreciated what there's to learn about this. And I hope you have a wonderful day. See you guys tomorrow in Meretz Hashem.